In 2022, I decided to bite the bullet and go to Mexico. And I also decided that if it turned out that all those messages I was getting were incorrect or I had interpreted them, I would just take this as a really nice holiday. And I made my peace with that. Now, one of the things that kept coming to me while I was on my way to Mexico and even when I was there was something has to come full circle. And I didn't exactly understand what that meant. So I journeyed about it. And the message that I kept getting was that I'd had a past life in Mexico as a Mayan shaman. And the story there was that I actually had to leave my people and my community because I got into some trouble with a high ranking official and I had to run for my life. And apparently, I made the journey to what would have been more northern parts of Mexico, but are today, these regions lie in the southern part of the US, and I'm referring to Arizona, New Mexico, that area. And apparently, that's where I was exiled to. And the only logic I could make out of it was somehow me returning to Mexico was that journey coming full circle. But I had the gut feeling that it meant so much more than that. Anyway, I went to Mexico, loved it, met some Mexican shamans there, had some beautiful healings done. Absolutely, it was an amazing experience. And by the way, it's an amazing country, which I strongly recommend you visit. Ate amazing food, saw amazing sights, and even ended up meeting some really amazing people. Came back with a whole bunch of friends and even a family. And there was this one small thing that happened that at that point of time I fully did not understand that it was actually not a small thing. And this happened when I actually landed up in Chichen Itza, which was when I visited. So I traveled to several places in Mexico, and this is when I visited Merida in the south. And I remember that I was planning to take my flight out of Merida back home. And then I get this call from one of my friends in Mexico City. And she said, "Oh, my birthday is coming up and I'm really hoping to see you at the party." And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm actually planning to fly out from Merida itself." And she sounded kind of disappointed. And then I was like, "Okay, come on, it's your birthday." So I was like, "You know what? Don't worry about it. I'm going to come back to Mexico City. I'll fly out of Mexico City. I'll be there for your birthday. Don't worry about this." So I get there, and at this birthday party, one of my friends looks at me and he says, "God, you look different." And I said, "Different how?" And he said, "Is something in your eyes? You have the Jaguar." And I said, "What?" He looks at me, he goes, "Yes, yes, you have the Jaguar." And when I looked at myself in the mirror at that time, I was like, yeah, there was this weird sort of greeny tinge in my eyes. It was barely like you blink and you'll miss it kind of there. But it was there. And I didn't think much of this really because it's very common in if you're walking the shamanic path to have power animals come to you before you actually merge with them. So I was like, okay, maybe I have this new power animal and I'll get to it when the time is right. I didn't think much of it at all. Now, the next step was I returned home and I was very excited because my trip had gone really well and I thought I had understood what it meant to come full circle. I thought, going to Mexico was for the purpose of me reconnecting with that land and having all these healings and meeting all these amazing people. And I thought, yeah, that was it. I mean, it seemed to make sense at that time. But what I didn't realize then was that this was preparing me for what was to come. And now when I look back, if I hadn't been to Mexico, I probably would not be here right now, probably would not be making this video right now because I simply would not exist. Now, Now, what was to come is not something that I'm going to get it into too many details about, because it is a legal matter, and plus, I don't really feel ready to talk about this publicly yet. But basically, when I got back to India, there were a series of events that led to me tragically losing. So as I had mentioned in the last video, I had lost my sister and my mother one after the other even before I went to Mexico. But what I didn't know was why they had died, because I thought it was due to illness, but it was something else. And there was an attempt on my life as well. And then my father, was also he also died under these tragic circumstances. So there will be a day I'll be able to talk about this more publicly, and we will talk about it then. But had I not been to Mexico and not come across the Jaguar, I would not have made it through these circumstances. Now, what happened is when I came back, for a variety of reasons, my father became very seriously ill a few months down the line, and I had to rush him to the hospital. And at that point of time, I was seeking spiritual guidance. So I asked, the guidance that I asked for was, how should I handle this time? What should I do? And surprisingly, what came to me was the Jaguar telling me urgently that I needed to merge with it now. Now, understood that the Jaguar was there, it was trailing me, but I was kind of scared of it for reasons I haven't fully understood. And I didn't understand what the Jaguar had to do with my father's health, but I now look back and I see that had that Jaguar and I not merged, I would not have been able to fight what followed, because what followed is a set of circumstances that required me to literally fight with superhuman strength that I by myself do not have possessed that kind of strength. And the Jaguar actually helped me to fight back a terrible situation in which I would have surely perished had I not had this support. Now, the interesting thing that happened is when I merged with the Jaguar and I became more curious about my path with it, I started studying and researching everything I could about Jaguars and about Jaguar Shamanism. And coincidentally, I come across this book written by an anthropologist who had studied the Jaguar shamans in the Amazon from a specific tribe. And this, no, this, as I read this book, I start to realize that the lives of these Jaguar shamans that this anthropologist has described, and the tragedies that they faced, and what happened to them, the attempts on their life, and also the tragedies, the tragic way in which they lost their family, was literally what I had been through. And the parallels were just too strong to ignore. I mean, my jaw was on the floor. I literally was reading this book with my mouth hanging open and falling off my chair several times just to check and recheck, because it was like my life and what was happening with these Jaguar shamans, and it was exactly parallel. And suddenly everything made sense, from the attempts on my life even when I was a child, my strong connection with spirit, my my inclination towards toxic systems, which I will explain further in a minute, and the injustice and abuse from these toxic systems that I am trying to overcome myself and helping everyone else to overcome, the crow sitting on my head, the Jaguar coming to me in Mexico, and I literally understood the meaning of what my ancestors meant when they said full circle. Because when I was reading this, suddenly I realized everything came full circle for me. I am still learning a lot about Jaguars and Jaguar Shamanism because I am still a novice on this path. Now, this is a new path for me. And the interesting thing is, when I read this book, it also mentioned that it takes 10 years of training for someone to become a Jaguar Shaman. And interestingly, when this happened in 2023, I would have completed approximately 10 and a half years of practicing as a shaman. Another crazy coincidence that I just can't ignore. So I am going to continue on this path. I don't have too much more to share about this path at the moment because I'm still trying to grasp it. I'm still trying to understand it. And I've been in a state of mourning because all this this initiation came to me in a very traumatic way, and it has been a very difficult initiation for me. And yes, I do believe it was an initiation, but as I learn more about my path, I would be happy to share more and more videos with you about this amazing journey. And all I have to say is that I'm really happy to be alive, because had I not gone to Mexico, had I not had the Jaguar come to me, there is no way I would have survived the tragedy that befell my family. And because there was an attempt, as I mentioned earlier, there was an attempt on my life as well. And I wasn't supposed to survive as well. And then I also understood the meaning of what those visitations, the messages from those visitors or visitations about it's not my time to go, because most people in my place would have become completely suicidal in that situation and probably given up their fight for life. And if I had done that, I would have gone along with the rest of my family as well. So wonderful sharing this with you, and I look forward to making more videos about this beautiful journey.